Well, to get the latest on this story and to analysis as well, I'm joined now live by Henri Vanhanen. He's a research fellow at the Finnish Institute for International Affairs. He's in Helsinki. Good evening, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening. Good to be here.
Is there any truth then to these claims that Helsinki has been spreading lies about Hungary?
I think these statements, you have to put them in the wider context. We know that Hungary has been struggling with the European Union and Commission on issues related to rule of law and also the EU funds related to the rule of law issue. And I think the Hungarians are perhaps referring to, for example, the Finnish EU presidency in 2019, where Finland pursued actively to connect EU funds to rule of law development in member states. So calling them lies is perhaps political framing of the issue. But of course, this is a dispute that has been going on between EU and Hungary for some time now. I think what we're seeing now is perhaps just this wider context where Hungary might be potentially connecting issues that are related or unrelated to Finland's NATO bid. So I think we're sort of closing in on the final moments of Hungary ultimately approving Finland's and Sweden's NATO membership. But right now we're of course seeing the final stage of this as we see Orban becoming more vocal on the issue as well.
So you do think then eventually Hungary will give the green light and Finland will be able to join NATO?
I have no doubt. I actually recently traveled to Budapest myself and had several good meetings there. And the reflection that I got from the trip, and also it echoes the message from the Hungarian leadership, is that they understand the value that Finland and Sweden add to Northern European and hence European overall security. So that's not the issue. And I have very good confidence that eventually Finland and Sweden will be green lighted. It's not a fundamental resistance to these countries. I see it as a matter of weeks now. I think it's a good sign that we see the Hungarian parliament finally starting the process after delaying it a couple of times. And of course, the prime minister becoming more vocal on the issue could be a sign that it's becoming more important matter for him as well as it comes on his political radar. But also, I think we see potentially a delegation traveling to Stockholm and Helsinki next week. So I think these are signs that things are moving in the background.
You mentioned Sweden's bid as well. There are problems with Sweden's bid when it comes to Turkey, another member of NATO that had plenty of objections to Sweden joining. And there has been a suggestion that possibly Finland might join without Sweden. Do you think that's a likely scenario?
Well, we also, of course, have to understand that it's not a joint application per se. It's Finland's and Sweden's NATO application, not the application of Finland and Sweden. So hence, every member state will react to these applications as they see fit. And I think we've seen it from the start since the applications were sent last year that Turkey perhaps views Finland and Sweden a bit differently. And the message that we have been receiving from Ankara is that Finland is perhaps more ready to be ratified from their perspective at this point than Sweden. So I think it's likely, it's one option that Finland could be ratified at this stage and Sweden perhaps a little more later. But I think the primary goal for both countries right now is to be ratified by the NATO Vilnius summit in July. So I think we're going to see very decisive weeks, and especially March, we're seeing Finland, Sweden and Turkey returning to the trilateral discussion format. And also we're looking at Hungary because we know that Hungary and Turkey are closely coordinating with each other on the ratification process. So I think there's a lot going on in the background now, and I'm quite optimistic that we are going to see movement in the spring.
And just finally, give us the bigger picture here. I mean, why is it so important to Finland that it does join NATO?
Well, I think it's not just what Finland brings what NATO brings to Finland, but also what NATO brings to Finland brings to NATO. So it's sort of you have to look at both sides. I think for NATO benefits from having Finland and Sweden because it fills the gap in Northern European security, where these countries add a great value with their modernized capabilities, Air Force, Navy, Army. They will complete NATO's defense and make it easier to fulfill NATO's Article 5 collective security in terms of, for example, Norway and the Baltic states, the Arctic and the Baltic Sea. And for Finland, of course, it's important to be included under NATO's nuclear umbrella. So this is a good deal for both sides, and I think the faster the ratification gets done, then we get faster to the defense planning by NATO in Northern Europe. So I think that's the essential reason to advance as rapidly as possible.
Henri Vanhanen talking to us there from Helsinki. Thanks very much indeed, sir, for your analysis.
Thank you.